Hello. So today I have some neighbors playing some really loud music and I can't seem to get it off the video. So I apologize if there's some distracting techno music in the background. We're going to keep going with The Mouse and the Motorcycle. Today we are finishing up chapter 4 and moving on to chapter 5. So where we left off was Ralph trying to figure out how he could get the motorcycle to start. I'm sure sorry about that. Forget it, said the boy reassuringly. It won't hurt much. The motorcycle will still run. Ralph threw his leg over the motorcycle and settled himself comfortably in the seat. Perfect, just perfect. The boy was obviously delighted that his motorcycle was just right for a mouse. Ralph could not have agreed more heartily. It was perfect. Except for one thing. He did not know how to start it. Well, go on, said the boy. Write it. Ralph was ashamed to confess his ignorance. I don't know how to start it, he admitted. It's the first motorcycle I've ever had a chance to ride. You have to make a noise, the boy explained matter-of-factly. These cars don't go unless you make a noise. The answer was so obvious, Ralph was disgusted with himself for not knowing without asking. He grasped the hand grips and, fearful lest his noise to be too squeaky, managed a... Sure enough, the motorcycle moved. It really and truly moved across the threadbare carpet. Ralph was so excited that he promptly forgot to make the noise. The motorcycle stopped. Ralph started it again. This time, he remembered to keep on making the noise. He sped off into a square of moonlight on the carpet and found a good threadbare spot without any bumps. Look out for your tail, said the boy. Don't let it get caught in the spokes. Thanks for reminding me, said Ralph, causing the motorcycle to stop. He started it again and steered with one paw while he reached back with the other, caught up his tail, and held the tip safely against the handlebar. It was a glorious sensation, speeding around on the carpet, freely and noisily, and most of all, fast. Ralph discovered that if he made the noise fast, the motorcycle slowed down. No, if he made the noise fast, the motorcycle sped up. If he slowed the sound, the motorcycle slowed down. He promptly speeded up and raced around the rectangle of the moonlight, where he made another discovery. When he ran out of breath, the momentum of the motorcycle carried him on until he could take another breath. Gee, you're lucky, whispered the boy. In order to answer, Ralph had to stop. I am? It had never occurred to him that a mouse could be luckier than a boy. You sure are, the boy spoke with feeling. My mother would never let me ride a motorcycle. She would say I might break a leg or something silly like that. Well, if you want to come right down to it, said Ralph, I don't suppose my mother would be exactly crazy about the idea. He began to have an uneasy feeling that he really should be getting back to the mouse hole. Anyway, said the boy gloomily, it will be years and years before I'm old enough to ride a motorcycle. And then, when I'm old enough, my mother won't let me. Here's a picture of Ralph going super quick all around the room, speedy on Keith's motorcycle. Ralph really felt sorry for the boy, hampered as he was by his youth and his mother. Go on, ride it some more, said the boy. I like to watch. Ralph started the motorcycle again and rode around in the moonlight once more, faster and faster, until he was dizzy from circling, dizzy with excitement, dizzy with the joy of speed. Never mind, never mind the danger. Never mind his mother's thought. This was living. This was what he wanted to do. Lucky, whispered the boy, with envy in his voice. Ralph did not answer. He did not want to stop. Chapter 5. Adventure in the Night. When Ralph had mastered riding the motorcycle on the threadbare count, he went bumping over the roses on the less worn parts under the dresser and beside the table. That was fun, too. Hey, whispered the boy, come on out where I can see you. Ralph shot out into the moonlight where he stopped, sitting gently on the motorcycle with one foot resting on the floor. Say, he said, how about letting me take her out in the hall? You know, just for a little spin to see how fast she'll go. Promise you'll bring her back? Asked Keith. Scout's honor, answered Ralph, who had picked up many expressions from children who had stayed in 215. Okay, I'll tell you what, said Keith. You can use it at night, and I'll use it in the daytime. I'll leave the door open an inch so you can get in. That way you can ride it up and down the hall at night. Can I really? This was more than Ralph had hoped for. Where do you want me to park it when I come in? He asked. Some place where the maid won't step on it, answered the boy. That's easy, under the bed. She practically never cleans under the bed. Yes, I know, agreed Keith. I looked. There are a lot of dust mites back there. Please, Ralph was pained. Oh, sorry, said the boy. That's what my mother calls bunches of dusty fluff under the bed. My mother doesn't, said Ralph. Now, how about opening the door? The boy put his hand on the doorknob. You won't let anything happen to my motorcycle, will you? Asked the boy. You know I wouldn't let anything happen to a beauty like this, said Ralph. See that you don't, and don't stay out too late. The boy opened the door and permitted Ralph to put out into the dim light of the hall. Ralph had a scary feeling he was on the threshold of adventure. There were no beds or chairs for him to dart under in case of danger. The floor creaked. Outside in the pines, an owl hooted, sending prickles up Ralph's spine. Ralph controlled the trembling of his paws while he hesitated outside the door to consider the possibilities of the hall, which was carpeted down the center, leaving two smooth highways of bare floor on either side along the baseboards. It did not take Ralph long to decide what to do. He picked up his tail, took a deep breath, bent low over the handlebars, flapped his ears, and sped down the straightaway as fast as the motorcycle would go. The real one. He could feel his whiskers swept back by the force of the speed. It was glorious. Ralph had never ventured so far from before. The old wooden hotel, cooling in the night air, snapped and creaked. But Ralph was brave. He was riding a motorcycle. He passed room 213, ran out of breath, let momentum carry him past another noisy snore in room 211, on down the hall to the elevator, the mysterious elevator that carried people to that wonderful place Ralph had heard so much about, the ground floor. When Ralph came to the stairs, he stopped to look down, knowing it was impossible to ride a motorcycle downstairs, at the same time wishing he could see for himself for the wonders that lay below. He sniffed the air. And it seemed to him that he could smell the strange food he had heard about. Cinnamon buns with sticky frosting, turkey stuffing, and pancakes with maple syrup. A ray of moonlight from a window glinted on the glassy eye of a mounted deer's head over the stair landing and startled Ralph, sending him off down the hall, past the broom closet and the linen room, to the end of the hall, where he executed a sharp turn and started back. So he went to the edge of the staircase, kind of got scared because he saw a head of a mounted deer. Here he is at the top of the staircase. Exhilarated by speed, Ralph raced up and down. Once, when he heard some people getting out of the elevator, he had to duck behind the curtain of the window at the end of the hall. Toward midnight, he passed his Aunt Sissy scurrying along the baseboard. He waved and nearly lost control of the motorcycle. Aunt Sissy stopped to stare, while Ralph rode on, feeling pleased with himself, and at that same time sorry for Aunt Sissy, poor frightened thing, with only her feet to carry her from one crumb to the next. Up and down the hall raced Ralph until, after an especially noisy burst of speed outside room 211, he was startled to hear a dog bark inside the room. Now it was Ralph's turn to be frightened. Oh, he thought, I'd better be careful. If there was one thing Ralph disliked, it was people who traveled with dogs. Dogs always sniffed around where they had no business sniffing. Once a dog had even barked in the mouse hole in room 215. It was days before Ralph's mother got over that. Ralph heard someone moving around inside room 211, and, looking back over his shoulder, he saw the door open, and a tousled man in a bathrobe and slippers appeared carrying a little terrier. The man looked across and sleepily as he started down the hall toward the elevator with his dog. He was walking straight toward Ralph. Realizing he was taking a chance, Ralph speeded up the motorcycle. If he turned and headed back to the room 215, he would have to pass the man. It was better to continue toward the elevator and hope he could find a place to hide. He raced down the hall. The wild bark of the little terrier told Ralph that he had been seen by the dog, if not by the man. Shut up, muttered the man to his dog. I'm going to walk you. You don't have to wake up the whole hotel. And there is a grumpy old man taking out his dog as Ralph motors by. All right, we're not going to finish chapter 5, but do at least another page. Ralph reached the elevator where he drove around behind the ashtray on a stand beside the door. He stopped and waited, tense and frightened. Outside, an owl hooted. Silent and hooted again. A sudden breeze rattled windows and banged at a door. Ralph's teeth began to chatter. The dog whimpered. But the man walked straight past Ralph, pushed a button, and in a moment stepped into the elevator. Phew, thought Ralph, when the elevator door had closed on the sleepy man and his noisy dog. Maybe he had better lie low for a while. In a few minutes, the elevator returned to the second floor. As the man stepped out, the little dog looked over his shoulder and spied Ralph, parked behind the ashtray stand. Because the dog was a captive and he was free, Ralph could not resist sticking out his tongue and waggling his paws in his ears, a gesture he had learned from children in room 215, and one he knew was sure to arouse anger. Let me at him, barked the little terrier. Cut it out, grumbled the man, fumbling for the doorknob of room 211, while Ralph, a daredevil, now rode in a giddy circle around the ashtray stand. He had a feeling of cockiness he had never known before. Who said mice were timid? Ha! Nope. Sorry. Okay. When the morning song of birds in the pines grew louder than the snores of the guests and dawn slipped through the window at the end of the hall, Ralph knew it was time to return to room 215. There he was, shocked to discover the door shut. Only then did he recall the draft in the night and the slam of a door. He got off the motorcycle and pounded on the door with his fist. But what sleeping boy could hear a mouse beating on a door? Ralph knew from experience that he could flatten himself out and crawl under the door of room 215. But there was no way he could get the motorcycle through the crack, not even by laying it on its side and pushing. The handlebars were too wide. And here is a picture of Ralph knocking on the door. And that's where we're going to stop for today. So we have 3 more pages in chapter 5. 4 more pages in chapter 5. And then we'll move on to chapter 17. What? 16. 6. Wow. Next. And I hope that we can get through. I will do everything I can to try and get through this book before the end of the school year. So next week, the read-alouds might be a little bit longer so that we can make sure we get through this by Thursday, okay? Have a fantastic weekend, and I can't wait to see you all soon. Bye!